On this edition, I'm going to break down and predict the upcoming main event at UFC 152 between Rory MacDonald and BJ Penn. Now, obviously, BJ Penn's coming out of retirement to face Rory MacDonald at welterweight. Personally, I would have preferred to see BJ Penn at lightweight, but you know what? This is a good fight for him to come out and obviously come out of retirement. It's good to see BJ Penn back fighting and getting back in the octagon. Obviously, Rory MacDonald, I mean, I don't even want to say prospect. The guy is an unbelievable talent, and the guy has such a bright future in mixed martial arts, and both guys finish fights. This could very well be a war. It could be one-sided. That's the best thing about this sport is that anything's possible, and especially when it comes to this fight. So what I'm going to do in this video, I'm just going to break down both fighters. I'm going to do my predictions. So I'll start with Rory MacDonald. Now, Rory MacDonald, the sky's the limit with this kid. He's unlimited potential, and he's still just cracking in or just tapping into his potential. He's continuing to grow as a mixed martial artist, and obviously training a tri-star, working under GSP. I mean, everybody says always a spitting image of GSP. The guy's going to continue to get better, and he still has a long ways to go to be at the top of the welterweight division. Not a long way, like it's never going to happen, but you know, he's still got a lot of growing to do, and he's still an unbelievable mixed martial artist. So Rory MacDonald's skill set, you know, his stand-up, boxing, Muay Thai is almost like a spitting image of GSP. Is that, you know, he could throw absolutely everything at you. He could stand in the pocket and exchange strikes. He works the body. He throws leg kicks. He's got unbelievable power for the division. A very good reach, 76-inch reach, huge reach advantage in this fight. He is explosive. He's got good stand-up. And he mixes it up very well, and he's aggressive. He keeps coming after you. He's always in your face. Rory MacDonald does mix it up too. I think his stand-up is good, most definitely. We saw it. I mean, that war that he had with Carlos Condit was just an unbelievable fight, and he can continue to bring the pressure. However, I think his stand-up complements his wrestling and takedown and clinch ability so well, is that people do respect Rory's stand-up, but people respect Rory's ground game even more, because Rory MacDonald's wrestling and his clinch ability are some of the best in the division. If Rory MacDonald gets you in the clinch, dirty box, separate with elbows and strikes, and then he can take you down. He works a double and a single very well. And when he gets you down the ground, Rory MacDonald's ground control is some of the best out there, and he is so good at wedging people's arms down, advancing guard, controlling people on the ground. He can bully people on the ground, and he's good at fending off submissions. The guy's never been submitted before, and this is a true test, especially against a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu like BJ Penn. However, his ground and pound is unmatched. He can posture up. We've seen what he's done. Obviously, Shea Mills wasn't the best of competition for him, but he's done it time and time again. His ground and pound is no joke, and he can beat guys down. He finishes fights. Only one of Rory's fights has gone to decision. He looks for the finish at all times of the fight. He's always looking for that finish. He's always hitting with bad intentions, and he has a good submission game as well. Rory MacDonald has a very good submission game. He imposes his will with his wrestling game, and then he locks in submissions. He beats you to a pulp. He can lock you in submission. He can either finish you on the ground with ground and pound, or he can finish you by submission. So some pros and cons for Rory MacDonald. I'd say most definitely the pro is definitely his size, his reach. He's the bigger guy in this fight. Huge reach advantage, a 6-inch reach advantage in this fight. He's got a good chin. He was TKO'd against Carlos Condit, or knocked against Carlos Condit. It was a questionable call that a lot of people have been saying, but he's got a good chin. Very battle-tested chin. Size advantage in this fight, definitely huge wrestling advantage in this fight. His wrestling is very hard to match. Ground and pound's a big factor as well. BJ Penn has been TKO'd before on the ground by a good wrestler, Matt Hughes, and that is definitely a gap in BJ's game, even though his wrestling is very formidable. But Rory MacDonald is most definitely the better wrestler in this fight, and I'd say definitely his versatility as well. He's a very versatile and balanced mixed martial artist. Cons for Rory MacDonald, I'd say this is it's a step up in talent, obviously from his last fight. He's facing a very experienced fighter. He's not the better pure striker in this fight. He does not have the black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. His wrestling could very well X out BJ Penn's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but anything is possible. But he's not the better pure striker, and if anybody can test his chin, it's definitely BJ Penn's knockout power in this fight. So where I see Rory MacDonald being successful, I think, you know, you could stand trade with BJ Penn, but I'd go to his hole in his game. Obviously, he's good in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but I'd work my wrestling in this fight, and I'd try and win this fight via ground and pound. I wouldn't play into BJ Penn's good stand-up, his good knockout power, his ability to finish the fight in the blink of an eye with his stand-up. I'd take this one down to the ground. I'd wrestle with BJ Penn. Maybe try a submission. I don't see him submitting BJ Penn in this fight, but I see him being successful, wedging the hands down and beating BJ Penn down with ground and pound. Either Rory MacDonald wins this fight by TKO, or by decision, unanimous decision. So that's where I see Rory MacDonald being successful. So BJ Penn, it is so good to see BJ Penn back in the octagon. The guy still has it. He should have not retired in the first place. It's tough, especially when you're almost at your all-time low, especially after the fight with Nick Diaz. He got beaten to the pulp. However, BJ Penn's skill set, even though I think he should be fighting at lightweight, he's fighting at welterweight, he's undersized at welterweight, but he makes up for that with heart and his incredible toughness. So BJ Penn stand-up, he's one of the better boxers in mixed martial arts, almost under the radar with his stand-up. BJ Penn's boxing is some of the best. He fights with a small reach. He has a 70-inch reach, 6 reach disadvantage in this fight, but he pops forward in the pocket very well, and his chin allows him to do so, and he's also very smart. He picks gaps very well. He did land quite a few strikes on Nick Diaz. I'm not saying he outstruck Nick Diaz. He landed quite a few strikes on Nick Diaz. He's smart in the stand-up department. He has good explosiveness and pop in his step. Pretty good head movement, and he has the ability to finish fights with just one strike. He has that knockout ability, the knockout power ability. He can finish fights just like that in the stand-up department. We've seen it countless times. He has incredible knockout power. It's very deceiving when you look at a guy like BJ Penn. He's versatile. He can work in kicks. BJ Penn does throw a lot of flying knees, can work his hands as well. He does change levels. I wish he'd work the body just a little bit more, especially in this fight, maybe chopping down Rory MacDonald, but you have to risk the takedown. But BJ Penn's smart stand-up fighter, great boxing, good leg kicks. In regards to it, he does have pretty good wrestling. He's not the better wrestler in this fight, but he can most definitely wrestle. And if he gets on his back, BJ Penn's submission game is outstanding. BJ Penn is a finisher as well, just like Rory MacDonald. He can fight well in his guard off his back. We saw what he did against GSP. He did struggle off his back, but people question the whole grease gate incident. But it's going to be interesting how his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu matches against Rory MacDonald's wrestling. But BJ Penn is more than capable of submitting guys off his back. He's also more than capable of submitting guys in the dominant position. The question is, can he get in the dominant position against a wrestler like Rory MacDonald? So, pros and cons for BJ Penn. I'd say pros definitely is the better pure striker in this fight. I'd say he has a little bit more knockout power as well. I'd say he has a lot more experience than Rory MacDonald as well. And even though he's at a reach disadvantage, I'd say his speed and his pop and his step is also an advantage. And I'd also say his chin. BJ Penn is a tough freaking guy. How many people can stand toe-to-toe with Nick Diaz and walk out without being TKO'd or knocked out? I'm not saying Nick Diaz has incredible knockout power, but he took a beating. The guy is tough. He has incredible heart. So cons for BJ Penn, I'd say his wrestling. That's a big gap. He's not the wrestler that Rory MacDonald is. I'd also say that his size. Size is a big factor in this fight. He is very undersized in this fight. Cardio has been a question for BJ Penn. He has been known to gas in later rounds. Not in every fight, but he has struggled with the cardio lately. And also the question is motivation. Are we going to see the 100% best BJ Penn? I certainly hope we do. I want to see the best BJ Penn out there. So whether he's motivated for this fight, I certainly think he is, but people question his motivation, so you could say that's a con. So where I see BJ being successful in this fight, keep it standing. You're the better striker than Rory MacDonald. A slight advantage in the stand-up department. I try and knock out Rory MacDonald. Test that chin. Use your movement in the octagon. Stay moving. Do not settle in one spot, but you've got to pick your spots, and you've got to be smart with it. If you're fighting off your back, you've got to work to get back up or try and lock Rory in a submission. But I think if it comes down to decision, I think that Rory's going to win this fight because of takedowns. So I think BJ Penn has to be successful. He's got to finish this fight. He's got to win it by knockout, or he's got to win this fight by submission. I think submission's a long shot, but I think he's got to knock out Rory MacDonald. So where my prediction lies in this fight, I think this is going to be a good fight. People say BJ is going to get absolutely destroyed, and you have to look at it, is that the hole in his game is that BJ can wrestle, but Rory MacDonald is one of those wrestlers that cannot be denied. Where I see this one coming down, it's going to be exchanging back and forth. I think BJ is going to catch Rory in the stand-up department, and what I see happening is Rory's going to go right down to his wrestling game. Once things fail in the stand-up, Rory's going to go right to his bread and butter, and that's going to be his wrestling. And what I see happening, I think it's going to be back and forth. But what I see coming down, I see Rory controlling this fight on the ground. BJ's going to throw submissions at him. He's going to throw strikes off his back because he does have an active guard and he is aggressive off his back. What I see it coming down to, I see this one either going to decision, or I see Rory MacDonald winning this fight via TKO in ground and pound department. I see him wedging the hand down, BJ Penn not being able to get out of it because of Rory's great control on the ground, winning this fight either by TKO or unanimous decision. So, hopefully we get to see BJ Penn fight after this fight. He's an outstanding fighter, definitely a Hall of Famer and a legend of the sport. And, whoever they give Rory MacDonald next, it's going to be interesting to see who Rory MacDonald fights next if he is to defeat BJ Penn. So I'm going to take Rory MacDonald defeating BJ Penn, the main event, UFC 152 via TKO or unanimous decision. And that's what I have for this edition. It's Kyle Delaney signing off. I'm out of here.